Aloha. Another lesson today. Hawaiian language basics, fundamentals of understanding Hawaiian language grammar. And so for today, we're going to look at a class of words which are called Memeʻa. And Memeʻa really comes from the meaning of mea. And these are a class of words in Hawaiian, which are generally most of the words you'll find in the Hawaiian language dictionary. And most of these words are commonly labeled and classified depending on their usage. So we must remember words in Hawaiian can be used and have different meanings depending upon the context and depending upon how the so-called word or sounds are being used. So when you get the word Memeʻa, any kind of word that you would consider generally being a noun in English or a verb in English would be called a Memeʻa. So commonly in the dictionary, in the Hawaiian dictionary, you would see words marked with an N or commonly with a V, or sometimes, in fact, words that are N and V, which would tell you that these are words that have particular usage, which are a noun and a verb usage. Now, when we look at how words are classified in Hawaiian language, we should first recognize that we generally have words that are defined, again, depending upon their usage, especially as verbs. And we generally have three types of so-called verbs in Hawaiian. The first we call the hamani. Now, a hamani is a common word that used to describe what's called a verb transitive, or VT. And a verb transitives are verbs that are actions, first of all, and they're actions that are performed onto an object. In other words, there is a receiver of the action. The second type of verb that we have that's also an action verb is what's called a hehele. And hehele verbs are marked with a VI, or verb intransitive. And a verb intransitive, like a verb transitive, are both actions. That's the first thing. Yeah. And these action verbs, we commonly call these two types of words hana, meaning to do or to act upon something. Now, a verb intransitive, unlike the verb transitive, does not have an object, right? And so we notice in the verb transitive, we have what's called an ave lauka. The word lauka basically means the receiver of the action. In a hehele, or a verb intransitive, we find, of course, that there is no lauka, meaning that it is an action that is not performed onto an object. So these are the first two classifications of verbs that we have, which are called hana. Now, we also have a secondary classification of verbs that are referred to as being verbs that denote the condition, the status, what something looks like, what something feels like, and we call these types of verbs a hopena. Now, a hopena, like the word hopena in Hawaiian, what it means, of course, is the result. What something will become like. What is its end result? And we really have two types that are very much related. The third is that we call the a'ano. And the a'ano, as you can see, the root word ano, yeah, what is the nature or character of something, describes what something is like, tastes like, feels like, looks like, and its particular status. Now, the a'ano, commonly in the dictionary, would be marked with a VS, or verb stative, yeah, verb status. Now, the a'ano, because it is not an action, right, it does not have an object. It's not performing any kind of action. A verb status, in fact, does not have an action, but what it does have is what we call an ave akena a'ano, an ave that has an agency for this particular condition. In other words, what you might call a cause or causative. What may cause that particular condition, right? So, and that causative can only happen, can only cause a hopena, right? That they are in fact related. And the number 4, in fact, is maybe seem a little confusing, but the thing to remember for number 4 is what we call the EI. Really is a separation of two sounds, the sound ia and the sound a. And what an EI, in fact, is not really a different kind of verb. It's actually a transformation of a particular verb, which starts off with a VT. So what a V or an EI is are words that are, in fact, are VT that have been formatted into a meaning that makes it a passive, is what they would call in English, yeah, which is very much like a hopena, in fact. For example, let's take a language in English, a word like eat. Yeah, when you eat is an action, to eat a particular object, eat a hamburger, the hamburger as the receiver of that object. Now, if I take a word like eat in Hawaiian, like ai, to eat, and I add the ia, for example, ai ia, it transforms that action into a hopena. So from the action to eat becomes, like in English, the status of being something being eaten, the result of something being eaten. And so instead of saying, I eat the fish being an object, instead you may say, the fish has been eaten by me, or the fish was eaten by me, meaning that the fish, which had been a so-called lauka, or object, now becomes the receiver of the action. And really what you see in that idea, the fish has been eaten, when you ask the question, what about the fish in that condition and status is the fact that it has been eaten, that there was an action performed upon the so-called fish. And so these are really the 4 classifications of verbs that we have. The VT, the hamani, and a good way to remember hamani is really I always talk about remembering the meaning of the word hammer. Yeah, when you hammer something, like you hammer a nail. So any kind of word that is an action performed to an object is a hamani. A hehele or VI are words like the word hele, right? You go, but you don't go something, you may go somewhere, but there is no so-called object. So any kind of VI word we call, in fact, a hehele. But these two are both hana, and they're both actions. Now the third, ano, as we talked about, yeah, has this meaning of ano, or condition. That is a particular hopena that may have a cause to that may be expressed. Or a hopena can actually be a verb transitive that has been converted with the ia, and therefore now is a result. So let's go take a look at a few examples of this on the next board.